in terms of my thoughts on like the Kings and our first round as we get into that part, it's just last year we had that Kings matchup and they had that Mikey Anderson who Oilers fans have learned to hate, who injured Draisaitl in the second game by taking him down with a slew foot from behind. So that memory kind of plays out in my head. And, I guess I'm just a little bit worried about the aggressiveness they played and the lack of calls in the playoffs in terms of playing against LA. That would be my biggest worry. I just it really hurt us last year down the stretch having Draisaitl with that lower body injury and Nurse without the with the hip thing. So that's what kind of worries me about the Kings, and obviously the fact they've got that new goalie in Corpusalo. He's a goalie that I think's better than Quick. So yeah, there is that worry there, but those are kind of the things I'm on the lookout for.
Yeah, so just Jeff, looking at the Oilers Kings matchup, I mean, I've talked about it a lot. Obviously, what kind of the Oilers saw last year, and we talked about it, like having centers like the Kings do. It's like Kopitar, Deneau. Those are guys that obviously the Kings are going to have covering and matching up against the McDavid and Draisaitls of the world here. So, for your perspective, what do you see different, I guess, from the Kings and Oilers matchup this year? Obviously, the Kings got a guy like Fiala, and I think they've gotten more experience. Some of the younger guys. Yeah, just overall in Corpusalo, as you talked about, what are your positives and negatives for both sides on why each team could win the series?
All right, I'll start with the Kings. The positives, like I said, Corpusalo. We played against him. I was really impressed. He's a guy who played in Columbus for a long time, got out of there at the deadline. Shockingly, he got to a new team in a playoff spot. He looks like he's a very strong goaltender. Obviously, Quick has that experience, and last year he played us tough because once a guy like that, a cup winner, goes to the playoffs, he'll always play you tough. But I would say I'm a little more afraid of Corpusalo at this point. And like you said, Fiala, fantastic player. That's a guy they didn't
Yeah,
have. And they play, like I said, just with that edge of, bringing that rough and tough style. It's not the type of game that the Oilers are probably looking forward to playing in these playoffs. I think we would have been better up against Seattle, where it's, high octane. Like, let's try to outscore these guys. So the Oilers essentially have to come down and play, not come down, but change up their comfortable style to play the LA Kings in a 7-game series like they did last year. They pulled it off last year by the skin of their teeth. Will it be the same this year? I think they're more well prepared, but the fact that they got to go play 7 games potentially of a style of game that they're not as experienced in could be a problem. I think that's probably going to work in the Kings' favor. Or we could overcome it. In terms of the Oilers, I think, like I said, they're more well prepared than last year. They got guys like Ekholm instead of Barry in the on that back end to really help defensively. Nurse is playing some great hockey. And the difference between this year and last year for the Oilers is Draisaitl and Nurse coming in are healthy. So that's a huge difference. That's 2 of your top 5 guys right there playing at their best capacity. McDavid's going Super Saiyan this year. Hopefully he can continue it into the playoffs. Our goaltending, Skinner's looked good the last little bit. We've talked a lot about it, so I'll just leave it at that. And, hopefully here's to us doing another video after round 1, keeping this train
yeah,
rolling.
yeah. I was also gonna add to that I do think and I hate making this a Leaf comparison with you on here, but I will just in the sense of LA having cup winners on their team and guys that have gone far, and Edmonton now having more experience and having that ability. I do think with this matchup and the fact that it was last year, I wonder if I'll see similar things to kind of what I saw. Just like we're seeing Toronto and Tampa second year in a row, similar to LA and Edmonton. I just think sometimes when you drive off those momentums of the series and the kind of the matchup of having a team that you've played before, the winner that comes out of it, the momentum can be a very scary thing. And I promise you, Jeff, I think for Vegas, and probably talking to Vegas fans, I don't think they want to play either of these teams or Jets. Like no one probably wants to face the team coming out of this series. And my cousin's been a huge fan of LA this year. I think a lot of people I've talked to have just been huge fans of what LA's done. But it's the Edmonton Oilers, it's Connor McDavid, it's Leon Draisaitl, what you just said. Draisaitl fully healthy. It's just a scary beast. So I think whatever team can come out of this is going to be very scary. And honestly, I mean, I'd make the hot take in saying, unless Vegas ends up being the team that just is in the cup final like that, I would say I'm probably putting my numbers down on the LA Edmonton winner going all the way. We'll see
Wow.
though.
Even
We'll see
past
though.
the East or even just to the finals?
No, no, just to
Going
the
all the
final.
way or going all the
Going,
way?
going to the final maybe, but I was also just going to say it really depends what happens in that Central because again it's so hard to predict what Colorado we're getting because
Yeah.
they have holes that they didn't have last year, and I do want to wait to see what Georgiev has, and obviously I'm not gonna doubt Dallas and Ottinger. I'm not going to do that either, but I will say just in terms of the matchups in the first round, Jeff. And again, as we're recording, we're still going to see what Colorado, like who Colorado and Dallas are playing between Kraken and Minnesota. Just give people that context. But I don't really see a tougher, more 1v1 matchup than this LA Edmonton series. I really don't. I mean, maybe Winnipeg upsets Vegas, maybe Seattle upsets. Like I could see those upsets happening, but I'm just saying in terms of matchup 1v1, I don't see more like grilling, like I don't know. You get what I'm saying? Kind of just also just like the two, I feel like always the 2 versus 3, we're probably going to see very similar things between the Devils Rangers series and the Leafs Lightning series. It's just that 2v3 series when you're in division, it makes it a lot more competitive.
Do you think it's that close, between the Oilers and the Kings? Like what if you're gonna give percentage based on who's gonna win this, what percentage are you giving the Oilers to move on to the second round?
Yeah, I mean, I told you, man, I'm high on the Oilers, but I think I would have been a lot higher on the series had the Oilers been playing like the Kraken or again. The only reason I'm afraid of the Jets at times is just Hellebuck, man. Like I don't want to discredit anyone else in the Jets. It's just like I've talked about these kind of goalies that can steal a series, and Hellebuck's that kind of guy. I'm not trying to shoot down anyone in this series, but I just don't see that in the LA Edmonton series. That like, yeah, you know what, Corpusalo has his moments, and I just don't see that to the capacity that like that goalie can do. So to me, I see it more as a close matchup. But obviously, when it comes down to it, Jeff, I mean, we've talked about it time and time again. If it comes down to a game 7, you have Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl. So obviously, if the Oilers Kings come down to a game 7, I'm putting my money down on the Oil because that's the difference maker here.
Yeah.
Obviously, the Kings take control here and have the ability, and we've seen it from other teams before. If the Kings find the recipe to just isolate McDavid and Draisaitl in the series, and the other guys don't get rolling, then that will become a problem really quickly for the Oilers. But as I said, if it becomes down to a game 7, I think you know where my head's at.
All right, so I'm not getting an answer to my percentage question, eh?
Oh, okay. 65%, I'll say Oilers.
65%? Okay, well, we'll have to see. I just think the more like I said, I'm always one to bite my tongue, but I'm just saying I think it'll be tough to get 4 wins out of the Oilers in a series. That's all. I'm not saying it won't happen, but I'm just saying this team looks like they're not wanting, like they look like they've seen a conference final and they do not want to let themselves lose 4 games in any series. And I think they have the confidence in themselves this year, which I don't think was there ever really before until last year.